Përshëndetje të dashur shikues. Jemi në episodin numër 4 të Speak Easy Podcast. Siç ju kemi thënë dhe më parë, duam të evidentojmë njerëz të suksesshëm të komunitetit shqiptar-amerikan këtu në Amerikë. Kam kënaqësinë të kem avokatin e njohur Renis Nushaj, i cili po kandidon për postin në Michigan, në Senatin e Michiganit, distrikti numër 9. Renis, it's a pleasure to have you amongst us.
Faleminderit. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Could you give us a quick peek of who Renis Nushaj is?
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. I am, as you indicated, I'm an attorney. I've been practicing for almost 16 years, and my practice is predominantly in Troy and Macomb County, which coincidentally is also the district that I'm running for. I have been practicing for those 16 years. I do a lot. It's a general practice, and I do handle a wide variety of areas of law. Among them, I am a municipal attorney. I represent municipalities. I am the city attorney for the city of Clawson, for example, which is my pride and joy. But above and beyond that, of course, I represent our individual clients, whether they be individuals, businesses, families, whatever the case may be. In various areas of the law, I handle a lot of civil litigation, business formation, handle family matters such as divorce, post-judgment, as well as some criminal law where we defend clients. Because I also, as I indicated earlier, I prosecute on behalf of the municipality, so I work as a prosecutor. It makes sense that I also do the opposite, I think, to balance it out. So over the last 16 years now, I've been fortunate to represent our community en masse, our fellow Albanian Americans, with whatever concerns, issues that they may have had throughout our recent immigration history in the country. And it's been my pride and joy to do so, to have done so over these years, and it's my joy to continue doing so going forward, of course.
It's known throughout the times that people during a certain time during their career might choose the political path.
Sure.
And it's very common for lawyers especially.
Yes.
And people that are part of the judicial system.
Yes.
What was that point that touched you to
Sure.
to enter the political race?
Yes. And you're absolutely correct, of course. I mean, attorneys are always in the fray, so to speak. We, by virtue of our jobs, we're always involved in politics to one extent or another. And I have been involved over the course of many years. I've worked every campaign known to mankind. I've worked a lot of judicial campaigns, helping fellow attorneys run for various judicial positions to become judges. And so I've always had an affinity for the process. However, to give you the sort of the defining moment, even though there's many considerations that go into it, I woke up one day and I was reading the Free Press in the morning on my phone, and I read an article that talked about my opponent, who is currently holding Senate District 9, and it indicated that he was one of the top four legislators who were recipients of lobbyist money in the state of Michigan. As a matter of fact, he was number 2. And thinking as a person that's been in business for almost 16 years, and we're lucky and fortunate to do what we do, I thought, my God, they must have given him millions. And I kept reading the article, and as I read, it says that he had received about $38,000 over the course of 4 years. And I do the math, and of course, it occurs to me that they bought him, the lobbyists that paid for him, $38,000 over the course of 4 years, bought him for the price of a sandwich, which is ridiculous to me. And obviously, following politics as I do, as we all do, I know and understand that those who are beholden to lobbyist money for their positions are not necessarily doing the bidding of the people of this community. They're not doing the work on our behalf. They're doing the work on behalf of those who pay for them to be reelected again and again. And I took an exception to that, a personal exception to that. So I turned over to my wife, was still sleeping in the meantime, and I said, I'm going to run against this man. I can't take it anymore. And of course, I'm very familiar with the area because this is my community. This is our community. The District 9 consists of Troy, Rochester Hills, Sterling Heights from DeQuinder to Van Dyke, from 14 Mile all the way up to the city of Utica. It includes the city of Utica and a few neighborhoods in Shelby. And this is our community, right? This is where we came of age. This is where my kids go to school. This is where I do everything that I do. My office is here. My office has always been here. Before becoming an attorney, I worked as a judicial clerk for one of the judges in our community. And obviously, I was very aware of everything that happened, and I was very aware of the gentleman that currently holds the seat. And I had all the exceptions that one would have towards someone that, ideologically were diametrically opposite. However, to see someone so beholden to lobbyists and interests that frankly are not the best interests of the members of our community, was something that affected me personally and deeply, as opposed to simply intellectually when I analyze whatever votes that one may have. So I think that was the moment that I made the decision, and I didn't look back. Thankfully, I have the support of my family, my lovely wife, and as well as this community, and then that's been wonderful to see.
So that was the spark that kind of told you should run for public office.
Yes.
What do senators of the Senate of Michigan deal with?
Absolutely. It's an excellent question.
For our viewers to kind of know and get educated.
Absolutely. So our state is set up the same way as the federal government is set up. We have a governor that reflects the office of the presidency at the federal level, and we have a legislature that consists of the House of Representatives and the state Senate, just like the federal government does in Congress. Our state house, consists of 110 members. State Senate is 38 members. So it's a bicameral system that deals with legislation, that proposes and passes legislation, that eventually makes its way to the governor for her signature, and those items that she signs then become laws. So our legislature is obviously very important. It deals with issues in the state of Michigan. And remember, our budget, the legislative budget that we have, or the state's budget, is about $80 billion, right? They deal with a massive amount of resources that then gets spread out throughout the state. So their role, above and beyond all the statewide issues and local issues, is disproportional on account of the fact that they control a massive amount of money that then finds its way in our community, when possible, where possible, or doesn't find its way in our community and it goes elsewhere, which is a lot of the issues that we face. So our state senators are elected in these little districts, such as this one, District 9, that I gave you the geographical boundary, all throughout the states. Our district, Senate District 9, has about 260,000 residents within it. And it's the job of the state senator is to represent not only the interests of the community that it represents, the geographic community, but also above and beyond, it has an impact on the statewide policy. And it's a very important job. They're somewhat sleeper jobs in the sense that we seldom hear about what happens in the state Senate. We seldom hear about what happens in the state House, other than those of us who are perennially obviously glued in because we have an interest above and beyond the day-to-day interest. It's somewhat, it's the processes that they engage in, which are very important, are somewhat aloof to the general public, and perhaps with good reason. I think as members of this community, of the state and beyond, realistically, we elect our officials, we vote and forget. And perhaps that's how it should be. Because if things work well, if things are working as they should, there should be no drama. There should be no concerns.
True.
Right? And to the extent that, someone like me reads an article about their state senator, which stands for the proposition that that person is wholesale bought and owned by lobbyist groups, which means that their interest and focus resonates more so with them than the rest of us, I find that to be obnoxious and obscene. And I think it is incumbent upon us to take charge and take back these kinds of positions so that so that our legislature and the laws that they pass and the means that they allocate throughout the state are done so in the interest of the people of the state as opposed to the lobbyists of the state. Now, you will recall not too many moons ago, we passed in the state term limits. And I must say, I did vote for them. I thought they were a great idea because remember the thinking at the time that we all had, and the people of the state of Michigan passed them in great numbers. The thinking was we wanted to break the gridlock. We wanted to break some of that repeat return customer that we saw in the legislature, right, in the state house and the state senate. And we put these term limits. They said that you can only serve for 12 years. And unbeknownst to us, and certainly unbeknownst to me, what followed was even perhaps more tragic, because all of a sudden we no longer send to the state senate those finest among us that create the breadth of expertise and know-how to be able to guide the state successfully throughout the various policies that he considers. Now, the permanent class of lobbyists and unelected state assistants to the legislators are the ones that truly hold all the power. So something that this community, nor any person in Michigan perhaps, or at least certainly I didn't, ever thought that would become possible, has become possible. And I remember I was, before my law degree, I was a history major. And I remember there was always a quote that I loved among all. It came from Nixon's time. And there was one of the oil tycoons who had supported Nixon throughout his entire career. And at the end of that career, when he had become president yet again for the second time, the quote was, "We bought the son of a gun, but the son of a gun didn't stay bought." Right. And I love that. And I want that to be true for our state senators, our state legislators, politicians all throughout. In a system where money is so perennially important, I wish that we, even when our politicians have a need to be able to acquire funds, to be able to run for election, to be able to get in front of the public and advertise themselves, I want them not to stay bought. I expect them not to stay bought. And the fact that we have, for this community, a state senator that has been bought and has stayed bought, I object to that wholeheartedly, and that's why I'm running.
How many members are right now running for primaries?
Sure.
You just started. You
Yes.
hit the road running, and hitting the road running early, it's in the best interest
Absolutely.
of the candidate.
Absolutely.
How many candidates are
We have
running
right now
for the name in the ballot in November?
Certainly. Yeah, in November, we have obviously the Senator Weber is running as the incumbent. He will be on the ballot for sure. It is the filing deadline is April 19th, which means that whether both on the Republican side as well as the Democratic side, there's still time for people to run, and it doesn't take much. So we imagine there'll be several people running. But he is on certainly going to be on the ballot. There is one other gentleman on the Democratic side. I run on the Democratic Party. One gentleman that has also expressed his stated desire to want to run for the seat. So we will have a primary for purposes of this race. That will be in August, in early August, August 3rd. And so the two of us, at minimum, will go against one another for that consideration.
So, what would be in the vast interest of Albanian communities, since we're Albanian-based podcast? What I don't want to say what can you do, but how would you help the Albanian community being part of the Senate in the?
Certainly. Well, the Albanian American community of this district is obviously enmeshed in the fabric of this larger community. It's a quintessential part of it. We like to think, because we think that we just arrived yesterday, but the most recent immigration wave of our fellow Albanian Americans is now 30 years old, right? And with previous waves that are way older than that. This community has been around here for a long time. This is our home. This is our community. This is our home. And we belong here just like as everyone else, if not more, because we love this place. This is where we are raising our families, where our kids go to school, everything. I seek to serve this community in a new way, but the way that I've always served this community, because at the end of the day, when I first came out of law school, and I knew this day one in law school, I knew for all those 3 years that I was going to work for myself, and I made a calculation. Now, the calculation was somewhat simplistic, but it turned out to be true, which was that my fellow Albanian Americans were going to be there to support my business, as they support every other business belonging to this community. And we all thrive when we do so. And it was a bet based on nothing other than the fact that I knew as a 20-some-year-old, I knew my community. And I knew how we operate when it comes to our businesses, to our friends and family members, right? And it was a bet that paid off. For the ensuing 16 years that I've been an attorney, no matter how many of the other communities I represent, no matter how many of our fellow Americans, who bleed red, white, and blue, and they were born here, they came in the Mayflower or something like that, I represent the numbers of our fellow Albanian Americans that come into our office to seek our help and our assistance, always keep growing exponentially. And so that's been the pride and joy of my practice and my life, to be able to help this community as I have to the best of my abilities for those 16 years. I realized something that perhaps we all do in our professions and perhaps it shouldn't have taken me 16 years, but I certainly realized it after 16 years of practice, which is that when I attempt to assist and I help someone of our community, right, to the best of my ability, I attempt to fix their present situation, whatever their concern is, within the bounds of the law, within the parameters of the law. I attempt to improve their standing, right? And that's an individual fix. But I've also realized, as we all have, when we come of age, so to speak, that the issues that this community of ours faces don't exist in a vacuum. They're systemic concerns that we have. And I'll give you, and I always provide, to be a man of few ideas but solid ideas. I always provide the same example, which is rooted in banality, but it works. The example is this: when I see you get a traffic ticket and you come to my office to attempt to fix the point system or whatever the case may be, so that you're not harmed, your rates are not raised, and so on and so forth, and I fix your traffic ticket, that's an individual fix for you. It's an individual fix that ultimately doesn't fix the system, right? And you think, well, I was speeding, or I was, I got out on the road a little too fast and I impeded somebody else's traffic, and the police officer gave me a traffic ticket, and that may be all fine and dandy. However, if I see the same kind of issue on the same stretch of the road 3 to 4 times a week, 10 times a month, 100 sometimes a year, then what we do have is not you speeding on a stretch of the road. We have a systemic issue with respect to how we design the road, how we design the speed limits, how we've designed the entire area.
And how we enforce the law.
How we enforce the law, absolutely.
Yes.
And I think, and I see that as, it is the role of our state legislators, whether they be in the House or the Senate or the governor's office, whether they be elected or unelected, whomever works in the system in Lansing, to identify the systemic issues and to attempt to resolve them for our community, which is why, for example, I object, and I give you the most, like I said, that example is rooted in simplicity. But this, you can take the concept that applies throughout the state of Michigan, throughout everything, every aspect of our lives. We're coming at the heels of 8 years of having heard our governor say, we're going to build the damn roads, which I'm all in support of, because I find our roads to be objectionable. Well, after 8 years, and of course, there's good reason why she kept saying we're going to build the damn roads, because there was no road investment before that. It had been silent for a long time. And yet after 8 years, what do we see? Lots of construction, lots of problems, right?
Yes.
We haven't fixed the roads. I believe that's a systemic issue. We can build, and I'll give you an example. This is not even in my district, but it always makes an impression upon me. But
is it an issue not, losing the track of what we're talking about, is it an issue with the governor or is it an issue with the legislators that are part of the government?
I think so. Listen, at the end of the day, our legislators are making choices about how to spend that $80 billion every year, right? And $80 billion is an incredible sum of money, right? And these are, at the end of the day, taxes that are being taken from us, right, every year for the dubious benefit of having parked our homes in the cities where we've parked them, right? We get to pay a ton of money, right, for that dubious benefit. And I'm not counting here all the other taxes that we pay, which are endless.
Property tax and
everything under the sun,
and so forth.
Right. But just for the benefit of having parked your home in the city, you pay taxes, thousands of dollars every year. They go to the state of Michigan. Many, many moons ago, by way of our Constitution and then statutory guidance, we have what's called revenue sharing, where the state of Michigan takes this money from all the municipalities and then allocates it based on a percentage, right? Well, about 20, 30 years ago, people like my opponent, who then was also in the legislature, but not as a senator, but either working in the House or working for somebody working in the legislature. He's always been in politics. These people decided that no, they didn't want to share the statutory amount anymore. They wanted to share something less with the municipalities, and that was the inception of the problem. And the problem is not just simply roads, right? But it's also the infrastructure underneath, and it's everything else. We're just using that as an example, as a primary example, because it's the most visible example. But they decided they didn't want to send the money back to us. And when you think about who pays the taxes, well, it's not Ishpeming, right? It's not some long-lost corner of the state, right? And no offense to those places, it's the metropolitan area, right? Oakland, Macomb, and Wake County, right, and maybe Washtenaw. Those are your main contributors.
True. They carry the burden.
They carry the burden for everybody else, but the money's not coming back to us. If the money was coming back to us at the appropriate amounts, we wouldn't have the issues that we have. And now what do we have? We don't simply have terrible roads, right? Roads that, frankly, are objectionable even by Albania's standard, let alone America's standard. But we have the infrastructure underneath that's crumbling before our very eyes. I can give you these numbers for all these municipalities, but I'll use the example of the city of Clawson that I represent as the attorney. The city of Clawson, which is 2.2 square miles, it is 12,500 residents, 4,500 households, and a handful of businesses, has an infrastructure problem that is estimated to be able to be fixed, to be brought to normal, standard. It's estimated to be $180 million. $180 million. How does a community of 12,500 residents with 4,500 households paying taxes for property taxes that feed into the system resolve a $180 million system? The issue is not Clawson and their money. The issue is what our legislators are doing with the money once they receive it. They're not sending it back to us, and it is absurd. So to answer your question from earlier, it is not simply a situation of whether the governor has the will to be able to do it or not, but it's what legislators are considering their priority. The priority cannot be the lobbyists. For so long as the priority is the lobbyists of the state of Michigan, the roads, you can bet that they're going to stay the same, right? And every other problem that we have, and we have plenty, right? Just like any place, right? The problems are going to remain the same. They're going to be unresolved because we're sending the money where it shouldn't go. These are the issues that I think we need to address. These are the issues that legislators who have the well-being of the community in mind at all times would be better suited to address.
Being bombarded with news about the federal government, we kind of leave it on a shadow what goes on with the state.
You're absolutely right.
And that's, talking with
You're absolutely
friends
right.
of mine and talking, what I hear talked in the community too.
Sure.
So how can the Albanian American community help you to get elected?
Thank you.
That's the key.
Thank you. There's so many ways to help and assist. Obviously, we operate within a system that is designed to is designed around funding at the end of the day. And here's the simplest calculation. With respect to this particular district, as I indicated to you, there are about 260,000 individuals that work and live in the district. About 115,000 of them voted at the last general election for this Senate District 9 seat. And that's in the general. In the primary, and there wasn't a contested primary, but in the primary, respective primaries between the Democrats and the Republicans, there were about 15,000, 20,000 people that voted in each primary. Okay, 20,000 in the Democratic one. The numbers, if you think about it, are fairly minute, certainly in the primary. Now, with a contested primary, we anticipate about 30,000 individuals to vote, which means that we have to earn, because that's the first step, I have to win the primary in order to get to the general. To win that primary, to win the 30,000, the majority of 30,000 votes, it means that I need 15,001 votes at the end of the day. If I could have 15,001 conversations, I would hope that I would convince every single one of them because of the passion that I have for this. I don't have a need for this. This job pays $70,000 a year. Okay, it's the ultimate part-time job.
Money-wise,
it's terrible. I'm fortunate. I mean, that's not to say that nothing wrong with $70,000 a year. On the contrary, but as attorneys, we fare well. So obviously, for me, it's never been about money, which is why I object to someone being bought for the price of a sandwich. But if I could have 15,001 conversations and I could translate each one of those into a vote for that election, I would, and I wouldn't be here seeking the assistance and the help of our community. Far from it. I wouldn't waste the time. I would just say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win, have all those 15,000 conversations, and come see me when I win because I'm here for you. But in order to do so, to win those 15,001 votes, in the absence of the ability to knock on 15,000 doors, we have to raise money. We have to be in front of this community en masse, right? Both at the primary, but then also later on for those 120, 130,000 people that are going to vote, which again, same concept. We won't be able to knock that many doors. We won't be able to have 60,000 and change conversations in order to win the majority of the vote. So we do a lot of fundraising, which makes sense, and our community has been here for a long time. Unfortunately, we've learned the hard way that this is a necessary part of this ordeal of electing people to represent you. But above and beyond the fundraising, which we do quite a bit, and if you go to our website, which is ren4misenate.com, you'll have all that information, both with respect to the campaign as a whole, but also with respect to fundraising. But above and beyond that, it's my obligation, my desire to want to meet everyone that lives in this district, who votes in this district, and who has an interest, frankly, to want to hear from me and what I stand for. And to that end, every single member of this community that wishes to speak with me, I'm available to them. Every single member of this community who wishes me to be introduced to someone that they know, I'm available to them. If anybody wants to hold some, a meet and greet anywhere, I'll go anywhere to be able to meet them because I want to know them. I want to earn their support. I want to earn their vote. If anybody wishes to volunteer, as we get closer to the August election, and as we get later on closer to the November election, to knock some doors with me, to make some calls, to send some texts to friends, to send a postcard, whatever the case may be, however you want to contribute to this campaign, I will love that support, and I will take it however it comes.
So could you give us a roadmap
Sure.
of what people have to do to contribute in the primaries?
Sure.
I know that contributing to the campaign, it's a key element
Absolutely.
of the campaign.
Absolutely.
And it's a key element for someone to be part of on the ballot on November and
Absolutely.
get elected. But how can they support you in the primary itself?
The primary, and I appreciate that, the primary, for as far as I'm concerned, as far as we're concerned, is quintessentially important. It's quintessentially important because it's a necessary first step. Without it, there's nothing. And it's a proof of concept. And there's only two of us now, but who knows, there may be more, in a crowded primary or a primary of two or three. It won't matter. At the end of the day, we have to carry the vote. And we have some statistics and studies that tell us that apply the same way across the board, whether it be in politics, business, sales, whatever the case may be, that if you are in front of people's mind and like mind's eye, for at least on 7 particular occasions, 7 different means, no matter what those means are, odds are you've won them over, right? So my job, our job communally as a community, and my job as someone running would be to achieve that somehow with at least 15,001 people come the primary election. And we're going to do that by sending lit pieces to your house. We're going to do that by advertising on social media, by advertising on streaming throughout. We're going to do that by attending as many events, and God knows I attend just about every event that there could possibly exist right now, to be able to meet as many individuals as possible. And as part of that, part and parcel, we have the desire and the wish to have members of our community say, I know him. You should consider him for this position. He was great for everything that he did, or I thought he was wonderful at this, or I thought he explained this well, and I believe he's going to do a great job. And to that end, I will say that my opponent, well, both of my opponents, who whether it be inside the party, inside my party, and in the general election, are people that nobody in this community has ever heard of. They've been there for 4 years, but they can be there for 400 years, and nobody will ever hear who they are. That's not who we need. That's not who this community needs. This community knows who I am. And unfortunately, sometimes they know who I am because they may have had an issue.
Of course.
but they've heard in one way or another, they've heard. And why? Because we are a tight-knit community. And we recognize those who do work on behalf of our community, who are a part of this community, who've had their contribution, no matter how small, no matter how large. And I think that goes a long way. I think so long as we keep electing people who take our vote, take our support, and never look back, we can't expect anything much more than what we currently have. But to answer your earlier question as to what would I do differently to keep adding to it? Well, I'm a member of this community. The concerns that we have as Albanian Americans are my concerns. The families of the Albanian American community reflect my family, right? Every issue that I perceive as just about every other Albanian American in this area perceives it as well. We were raised with certain fundamental principles from our parents, right? And we were raised with those principles, with those ideas, with those notions, in a community that is, Albanian American in nature, right? That has a certain paradigm, a certain understanding, a certain conversation that it carries throughout. And I carry that with me naturally. So when someone comes, well, as it happens right now, when someone comes to my office, I don't require explanations because I already live their lives. I already live the lives of every member of this community because I'm here. I came here the same way as everybody else. So I think it's a natural connection that we're going to have. We are late in this game. Our fellow Albanian Americans, as you know far better than I do, have done exceptionally well in every aspect of life in this country, and for good reason. This is a hardworking group of people. This is a highly intelligent group of people, a driven group of people, people with a solid moral backbone. It is natural that we should do as well as we've done. But one area where we've lagged behind, and we continue to lag behind, is in the political arena. And we've lagged behind there, in my estimation, whether I'm right or wrong, because for far too long, those who have run for office, and some have won and have done us immensely proud, but for the most part, those who run for office simply have raised their hand at one cycle or another and said, I'm going to run for position X. The community has coalesced. We've gone and supported them. God knows I have over the course of 16 years. Every Albanian that's ever run, every Albanian American that's ever run for a position has had my support, no matter which side of the aisle. It's natural that we do so because of our affinity as a community. But unfortunately, what happens is politics, as you know, is a professional sport. It needs and it requires constant engagement. And unfortunately, that's been missing. Some of our candidates have raised their hand, run once, tried their luck, and if they lost, we've never seen them again. And unfortunately, we can't have that. So I'm, for example, personally, personally very proud of having my friend Susie Shkreli run for Secretary of State right now. I find that to be immensely helpful because Susie ran, if you recall, last time for Congress. Right. Did not win. She was catapulted into that seat when the previous contender dropped out. She did. She took a huge risk, raised an incredible amount of money, garnered a huge amount of support, and did exceedingly well in the race given the very short period of time that she had in her hands. Right. But when that was all said and done, she didn't go away. She didn't go away. She understood, and that's what we all as a community have to understand, that this is a professional sport. We have to keep at it. She understood that she needed to be in the game, and she stayed in the game. She worked for the governor's office as her legal counsel. She worked as lottery commissioner, and now she's back and running for Secretary of State. It is immensely beneficial to have someone like Susie. Every candidate in this community needs to take the same approach. This is a professional sport, and we have to stay with it.
Do not quit.
Never quit. Never quit. We don't quit anything else. In this community, I have, and perhaps it's true of all of us, but I can speak for this Albanian American community. In my office, right, when it comes to business, right, people are constantly thriving, constantly going back at it, constantly starting new endeavors. Right? Why? Because they don't quit. They never have. And I find that to be such a redeeming quality to this particular group, right? And we should apply it across the board. We shouldn't be just simply thriving in business, which we do, and that's great. We should be thriving in politics. We're too late. The fact that we don't have statewide or federal elected officials, candidates, for this community, it is absolutely abysmal to me. I'm not a jealous person by nature. I don't have envy in me whatsoever. But I'll tell you one moment that absolutely betrays me, which is in Macomb County Circuit Court. When I go to the Macomb County Circuit Court, and obviously I'm an attorney, I'm in all the courthouses all throughout here. Macomb County Circuit Court is a 5 or 6-story building. The first floor is the administrative clerks and the jury office. But every other floor has at least 4 judges per floor. And I'm here to tell you that at least, and I don't want to exaggerate, but at least 2 out of the 4 judges per floor carry an Italian last name. And I am so envious of them. I'm so envious of them because I know that the Italian Americans are not half the population of Macomb County. I know that, right? They're maybe, 3%, if that? They're the same percentage as our fellow Albanian Americans, yeah, right? But they understand the benefits of political engagement. They understand the benefits of political engagement, and they're not afraid to push their weight around to elect their fellow officials, to do the necessary work, because this is community-wide work at the end of the day. If I could pull this off, or any candidate could pull this off by themselves without having to raise money, without having to knock on doors and garner the support of the community, well, they would do it. Right? There's nothing harder for someone like me than ask for money. I'm used to, in my office, to deliver a service upon payment.
Of course.
Right? Right. It makes sense to me, right? And that's how I'm trained now, whether I want to or not. Right? It is inconceivable for me to have arrived at this moment, run for office and say, you should contribute to my campaign. And then people say, well, what am I going to get? And you give them an ill-defined benefit down the road if I'm elected. If I'm not elected, you're not getting anything, right? It's unnatural. It is the way the world works and how the system works, but it's unnatural. And if we could pull it off, we would do it without it, but we can't. Our fellow Italian Americans understand that well. They've supported their candidates, and they have a building full of judges, right? Full of judges, and by default, they have increased standing as a community. I think it works.
And I would not say that we're less successul than them.
Far from it. Far from it. Far from it. In Macomb County, in Oakland County, far from it. I mean, I think we just we haven't had the focus necessary in this particular arena. We've given it everything else, which is why no Greek owns a Coney Island in this town, right? We own them all. But we need to do the same when it comes to political power. We need to be able to look at every office and recognize a simple reality, which is if you elect Susie Shkreli as Secretary of State, she's going to bring with her to that position, right, the same acumen that this community brings at every other endeavor, because she is a daughter of this community. She's someone that was raised here, right? Same thing for yours truly. I was born of this community. I was raised of this community. I carry with me the principle, the dedication, and the fortitude that this community has throughout every other aspect. I will bring it to the legislators. I will bring it to the state legislature, which is languishing right now.
Renis, we do thank you. And during this campaign, we're going to monitor, and our studio, it's open to you.
Thank you.
To come and contact the besides the Albanian community, to contact our community, which is technically mainly Metro Detroit.
Absolutely.
People that have the businesses here, that live here, that have known you for 16 years, being part of the judicial system, but seeing you in the Senate, it would be an honor.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. Faleminderit shumë.
Të dashur shikues, ky ishte episodi I 4 I Speak Easy Podcast. Patëm nderin të kemi të ftuar kandidatin për Senat të distriktit numër 9 të shtetit të Michiganit, avokatin e njohur Renis Nushaj. Pra mos harroni, cili është linku ku mund të
Ren numri 4, Ren4 misenate.com. Po të kërkosh emrin, do të dalë.
Deri atëherë, dashur teleshikues, miru takoshim në episodin e rrallës, gjithmonë me shqiptar të suksesshëm të komunitetit tonë. Faleminderit Renis.
Faleminderit shumë.
Ishte kënaqësi.